in that mind-body connection, because what happens is that we're running 100 miles an hour in our head, you know, and it's exacerbated by technology. We're on our computer working. What are we doing when we want some entertainment? We on our computer watching Netflix, like whatever it is. It's our reality is through the screen. And what's happening to our bodies, you know, we're so static, we're so stationary. And so what's happening is we're polarizing the mind and the body. We're polarizing the pace in which we're thinking and the pace in which we're moving. So what we're trying to do at Inspire Yoga is really bring it back to harmony again. Give yourself permission to kind of slow down in the mind and just be present to your body.
Well, what kind of problems are you seeing manifesting with the stress? What do you see with your clients, or what do you see in general in the news in Hong Kong? Or what is the problem with stress? What is it bringing?
Well, definitely like a spike in anxiety. There's definitely a big, you know, focal point about mental health. Another, in terms of, I've seen a lot of clients come to me with panic attacks and just a sense of feeling a sense of powerlessness too, especially in a city like Hong Kong, where there's such an emphasis on control. Not having that and not knowing what's to come tomorrow and how I can't assert myself in order to control the result is painstakingly difficult for people. So I've seen that. I've seen actually quite a number of early onset dementia cases as well. Yeah, and just, you know, brain fog, that sluggishness in cognitive ability. Of course, I see on a daily basis the chronic pain and lower back pain, chronic pain around shoulders and neck. Of course, it's also due to posture, right? What are we doing? So much of our day, we're just hunched over our desk, we're hunched over our screen. It's no longer like the ergonomical setup we might have had at work. It's just making do with any corner we can find in our homes. So that's definitely what I've seen as well. Hip impingements, just basically, I would say just the occupational kind of result to a lack of mobility as well.
Yeah, I can totally see. So all of this, when you think of the brain fog or cognitive issues, pain in the back, in the body, this to me says inflammation. Like there's inflammation going on. And that's a stress. It's a stress on the body. So the idea, and the thing I'd like to talk to you about today is, okay, what can we do from an Ayurvedic perspective to lower this inflammation? Something different, something new, something that people haven't tried, and not just popping an ibuprofen to make that pain go away. What are you using? And maybe you can explain a little bit, what is Ayurveda? Because maybe some people are not familiar with it.
So I have definitely seen that. You know, it's also an overrun in terms of the sympathetic nervous system, where there's an inability to switch off and to relax and to sleep. And that's so much of when the restoration happens. That's so much when the cell repair happens, you know? And so having that compounding where there is an inflammation, but then there's no drainage either, is like a double, you know, it's double affecting in terms of the body. And I've seen as well, a lot of our clients, you're stuck at home, you want some respite. What do? You might just end up finding what you eat as a way of kind of escaping, you know? And so people just end up picking up something processed, something sweet, just for alcohol, absolutely, as a way of almost like switching off from the stress that they're experiencing. But we both know what happens when it comes to inflammation, alcohol and sugar, right? It's just exacerbates the problem. So I've really had to talk them a little bit more in terms of just lifestyle choices and the awareness of how our choices are so interconnected to our results, you know? And so if we're suffering on a baseline because there's stress, running away from it or thinking we'll find solace in a tub of ice cream, you're actually doing more harm to yourself. right? So what Ayurveda actually says is, Ayurveda is the life science, and yoga is actually, it's more of the unification of body and mind, where you're kind of becoming more centered, becoming more present. Ayurveda is helping to kind of prevent the problem before it even happens. So it's really fundamentally based on balance. So there are two parts of Ayurveda. So there's the Prakriti, which is your constitution when you were born. And I'll go through this a little bit more in detail. And then there's Vikriti, which is your current, like if you kind of did a litmus test, it's what you're dealing with right now. So this is your optimal, and then your Vikriti might pick up any imbalances because you're not working around your optimal. And so working with these two helps so much to really understand what the person is going through and their appetites, their capacity to, to metabolize, how much sleep do they really need, because we know it's so individualistic, right? We can put one person on one diet, we can put another person on the same diet and see day and night results, right? And different results. And so it's coming back to understand, we as a body and a mind, we're very, very individual. And so understanding and ascertaining what does it mean for me to be balanced, what is my threshold for stress, is very different from maybe my partner's. So it's not comparative whatsoever. It's much more coming from a place of awareness and introspection, to be honest with yourself. When is too much really too much, right? Because we often have a way of thinking, okay, well, they were able to kind of bang out 4 hours of weight training, I should be able to do it too. And understand, hey, it really depends. Like what condition are your joints in? What condition is your heart in, right? And so this is exactly what Ayurveda does. It brings us back down to the fundamental elements. So the elements of, similar to Chinese medicine, earth, fire, air, space, water. So there are 3 constitutions, or known as doshas. And once you kind of figure out where your predominant dosha is, that's when you realize how to find your balance.
Interesting. So I think this is so new for some people to understand, because a lot of, I think people I run into, well, Ayurveda is Ayurvedic medicine, or so they think, oh, it's turmeric or some kind of ashwagandha tea, and that, explain a little bit the differences, where does that fit in Ayurveda in terms of lowering inflammation and what you're talking about, the balance, and can anyone just take that and that's going to solve all their problems, or do they need to do other things?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Zara. And I think I also get run into a lot when it comes to, speaking into Ayurveda, because, I'm a very holistic wellness practitioner. I'm not an Ayurvedic doctor, but I know in terms of Ayurveda, prescribing herbs is your last port of contact. It's your last call, when nothing else has happened. Before you ingest any herb, before you just take medicine, there's a whole host of lifestyle choices and changes and conscious decisions you make around, okay, what breath work am I doing? What am I doing to release the stress? What am I doing to get the right nutrition? What am I to get the right rest? And so,
but it's so much easier to take a tea.
Absolutely, it is way easier to take the tea, but it's in that way, it's almost like using the Ayurvedic drugs or herbs as paracetamol. You're just popping a pill and going on with your day. Are we really examining the root cause? Are we really being truly holistic about it and understanding where is it stemming from? What is it that's triggering me? And how can I resolve this, rather than keep masking myself through things that I'm ingesting in order to, be Bayside from my symptoms. So you don't want to take that same symptomatic approach to something so holistic, because then you're watering it down, right?
Yeah.
And so the way we work is a lot of it is around breath work, because, so if you don't mind, I'll walk you through the 3 doshas,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you some pointers as to how to balance when there's an imbalance in those 3 doshas.
Yes,
So
please.
there's Vata, which is an imbalance of air element.
Vata,
So this,
V-A-T-T-A, right?
yeah,
Or
exactly.
okay.
Or VATA, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So Vata is a predominance of air element. And so this is when I see most, actually, in my clients. And because it's so connected to anxiety. So
Mm,
think about what's happening to the speed of our thoughts, right? It's moving so fast, like air. You're lacking that sense of grounding, right?
yeah.
And so you're all in your head, and you're thinking, and you're overthinking, and you're reliving things. You're away from the physicality of it. So
Yeah.
this is a Vata imbalance. And what I see manifesting physically when it comes to a Vata imbalance is actually a disproportion of air. And so I would prescribe like a breathing exercise focused much deeper, like slow, deep breaths into the belly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen a lot of, indigestion come from Vata imbalances, a lot of excess air elements or flatulence, a lot of joint pain, also air in, the structure. So this is all an indication that here's your underlying imbalance. Now, if that's,
Go ahead.
and if that's your underlying imbalance, then don't you think working on quieting the mind would be much more effective than having a turmeric tea every night?
Yes.
Because then you're working around bringing a sense of balance, bringing the body and the mind together, connecting to your breath. Again, what is the breath? It is nothing but the movement of air, right? And from the moment we're born to the moment we die, we're breathing all the time.
Yes.
What is the compounding impact of our breath versus 3 meals a day in terms of the nutrition, right? So if we can change something as simple as the breath, it will have a profound impact because we're doing it all the time.
So when you prescribe a breath work, say, are you teaching someone how to breathe throughout the day, or are you saying take 5 minutes out and do some deep breathing, or an as needed basis? What does a sort of prescription look like?
So for the Vata, it will start as like maybe say 10 minutes every 6 hours. Do this breathing exercise. Do slow, deep belly breathing. And if possible, try to bring Ujjayi breathing into that as well. So that's what I would prescribe for somebody who has a Vata imbalance, because it's so unnatural to them. They're so used to breathing shallow and, faster in its rhythm, that it takes almost an in training. So once you do it, say 15 minutes every 6 hours, then you do that every day. You do that for 3-4 months, and then you start to realize, hey, in my resting, I'm actually not breathing up here anymore. My breath is starting to habituate the belly breath. And so, as with anything, it takes discipline, and the initial part takes a lot of consistency, right? And so that's how we would guide it. We would say, do it frequently and regularly in order for your body's rhythm to start naturalizing. If you've been breathing up into your chest short and shallow for the last 40 years, don't expect by doing one exercise, all of a sudden this imbalance is gone, right? It takes compounding. It takes regularity and discipline. Yeah.
How long do you see it take your clients before they start to really make it a habit or see some benefits from it?
So I really ask for a commitment for at least 21 days to have this habit instilled. But the thing is, what's wonderful is that when you do it for 10 minutes a day, you will see an instant change. So when you see your instant result, you're much more motivated to do it again, right? And so that's how that habit starts to formulate and, you know, pick up steam, so to speak. So so then at the end of the 21 days, they already realize the change it has made. So that if they do miss it, they realize, hey, I feel out of imbalance because, hey, I forgot to do my breathing. So already they're starting to connect the dots where before they weren't even aware of, which to me is a milestone.
Speaking of the breath, I've been reading a very interesting book called The Oxygen Advantage. Have you heard of it?
I haven't actually.
It's quite circulating in the wellness circles, and it's by Patrick McKeown, and he talks about, his big thing is we are over breathers. We breathe too much through our mouth, and he says miracles can happen when you start breathing through the nose. What is are you teaching nose breathing, or is that just a whole other component?
This is the fundamental of yoga. It's always nose breathing. You cannot do ujjayi with your mouth open. You're always using, you know, the esophagus and the back of your throat to feel the breath. And if you're breathing through your mouth, you've already passed a lot of that feeling. So also carbon dioxide is a vasodilator. Like, it is very important. And that balance again is very important. So I definitely propagate nose breathing. Even when we sleep, a lot of the time I see this inflammation, this chronic tension and pain, and waking up lethargic and groggy because they've been breathing through their mouth the whole day, the whole night. You know, even in terms of like chakra theory or Chinese medicine, the front half of your body is yang. So it's your individual component. The back, or it's the active component. See, the back of your body is yin, right? And so we know it's all about balance of yin and yang, active and passive energy. How do we connect the back of the body with the front of the body? You can only connect it when your tongue is at the roof of your mouth. Then there's a circuit, there's a flow of energy. And so if your tongue is at the roof of your mouth, your only access point for breath is your nose.
Yes, I have my tongue on the roof of my mouth right now.
Yeah, you can feel it.
Totally coincides with what he's saying. And he's the same thing. He says throughout the day, breathing through the nose, when you sleep through the nose, even when you exercise intensively, which is not so easy, breathe through the nose. And if you need to take a break, you can, just lower the intensity until you can breathe through the nose. So I've been training like that too. And it's not easy, but that's cool that it can coincide. The other thing that he talks about, maybe you can mention this, is to comment on that, is breath holding. Is there anything in Ayurveda about breath holding and lowering stress and inflammation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we always breathe in a count. So we will maybe say, depending on the client and their initial diagnosis and their lung capacity, we'll breathe in a count. Say we breathe in for 4 counts, and then you'll hold it for 4 counts. Then you exhale for 8 counts. So again, you're increasing, you're actually decreasing the pace in which you breathe out. So it's much slower and much more mindful. And then at the end of your exhalation, you hold it again. You hold it for about 4 counts. And as you get more and more experience, you hold it for 12 counts. So this is, again, in yoga, you don't have 2 stages of the breath. It's not inhale, exhale. There are 4 stages of the breath. Inhale, full retention. Exhale, empty retention. So this is, thousands of years philosophy. So it's really great to see the science come together.
That's amazing. So we've only got 5